All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of The Pursuit to the Plate, brought to you by Vortex Optics and Remington Arms. Once again, it is the wonderful Joseph Swatowski and myself, Sean Callahan, talking this week, or I should say this show, um, in the Remington Arms studio. We're going to be talking a little bit of uh, bass fishing with Joe, some tactics and so on and so forth for some summer bass fishing. And then there's been some people wanting to know some summertime bassing. Uh, I think you're probably well more qualified to obviously other than get out there and spend some time on the water as much as possible. Uh, kind of go over, I guess, what's your routine? I mean,
Summer's tricky. As my uncle always said, it's the dog days of summer. Water temps are up there. Fish are going to be following the bait. So there's no real consistent. In the spring of the year, you can go shallow. The
yeah.
fish are always going to be under docks. They're going to be on beds. They're going to be spawning. This time of year, they're spread out. Usually, this time of year, I always start a day in the morning shallow. You
Hmm.
get right when the sun hits up, starts to come up. You get that little bit of a warmer water shallow where the bait fish are starting to gather.
Hmm.
I'll flip some docks. Our cast real shallow and fish inside weed edges early with plastics. Using favorite bait this time of year is 5-inch Berkeley Havoc hog on about a half-ounce jig head, a football head jig, and
Okay.
fish shallow.
Can you kind of explain what that lure is? Just, I mean,
A Havoc hog is it's what the best way to describe it is it's basically got a lot of fins. It's got four fins that create a lot of water movement behind it, and I jig it really slowly off the shallows. So
kind
I'm
of like a
casting it
lizard-looking deal.
kind of a little bit fatter, a little bit wider,
Hmm.
a lot heavier. It's got some weight to it,
Okay.
and it moves a lot of water. The fins on it you can either keep as whole or you can cut down the center, and it's going to distribute a lot of water behind it.
Okay.
So you're given a nice little wake and a little breakfast calling card for bass.
Hmm. I might have to try that out on the 19th.
The, it's a fun bait to use. I like pitching it up underneath docks, real tight to the shore.
Okay. I tell you one thing, and I think this may be a little bit off topic of some of the stuff that you did have to talk about. But I think something, and this is going to be a huge question for almost a good majority of at least Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas. Uh, our lakes are up anywhere from 10 to 20 feet. What, in the summertime, the water temps are up. You start getting rain, which obviously cools down the water. So you have a temperature, like a sudden temperature decrease. Uh, and then you know, you're that much higher than normal. Uh, how do you even go about? I mean, you're having, even if you know like really well, you got to pretty much everything you know is out the window.
It I love fishing water that's up, especially after rain. You get that you get a little bit cooler water, and when water levels rise in elevation, it means you have a lot more cover to fish.
Now,
The fish are gonna have a lot more places to hide.
even like 15 to 20 feet.
Oh yeah, because you're getting taking over shorelines. So you're starting to submerge more trees. You're getting more stumps submerged. Anything that people keep on the shoreline is going
Mm-hmm.
to be under there, and the bass are going to be using those as cover.
Okay.
Um, my approach to that is keep moving. I put my trolling motor up. I usually set it on 7 or 8, and
Yep.
that's the time I'll start using a lot more power fishing, a lot like Kevin Van Dam does, where I'm gonna start casting crankbaits and
Spinners and stuff.
spinner baits. I'll even throw a swim bait as one of my favorite jigs this time of year. That's because I can work it pretty much anywhere. I can work it through weed cover. I can bounce it off of timber. I can vertical jig it if I need to. If I'm reading on my electronics that I have a tree 14 feet down below me, I can jig a swim bait underneath it and still create some water dispersion and really hone in on where the fish are going to be hiding.
Mm-hmm.
We have that on the lake that I got a tournament on this upcoming Saturday. The water level's up about 6.5 feet. And for this lake and river system, that's a drastic rise in elevation.
Yeah.
And if you follow me on Facebook on Joe Swatowski Outdoors, you can see some of the pictures I've been posting. I'm still able to find the fish.
Oh, yeah.
And big fish.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sort of. If you're into those, like, 3 to 5 pound bass.
Right.
I'm
There's
more
no
in,
10-pounder.
I'm more into those little 1.5 pound ones, No, yeah. No, you've been doing good, man. I've got out, what, 4 times? Between weather and, kids' birthdays, both of them, my oldest is like April, like March 31st, and then my youngest was June 25th. So I mean, it's been tough, and then their friends have birthday parties, and it's been raining. Like I think they said March, April, May. I think it rained almost every day but 4 days in the month of May. Unreal.
Yeah, it's been crazy. The water levels even up here have been insane compared to what I'm used to. And it kind of changes your techniques a little bit and changes your tactics. But if you put in the work, you're going to find fish.
Time. I mean, how much? Okay. How much time are you going to spend on the water, per se, just preparing for a tournament? Or, I mean,
I've I've had a couple week break between tournaments, and I think I've been on the water 10 times in 3 weeks, 2 weeks,
damn.
and I'll be out there. I'll be on the water tomorrow. I'll be back out on the water on Friday, and then tournament on Saturday.
Holy smokes.
It's
That's a,
just refining my technique and finding where the fish are.
yeah, we got to get down to Truman Lake and fish one day next week before that tournament is, even if we even have it, because I mean, if they're calling for more thunderstorms, which it pretty much has been, I mean, they're not gonna risk that. Not for a
One
D,
mis-
huh?
one mistake a lot of people make though this time of year is they kind of just set up on their old spots, and we had a really wet spring, so with water levels up, you got to be able to think outside the box a little bit and know that
Oh yeah,
bass are going to find cover. They're going to find cover. They're going to find shade is a key. Warm days, they're going to be in shade or they're going to be deep, and they're going to find cover, ambush spots um, for their prey.
yeah. And that and at that point in time, uh, I mean, it's unreal seeing a lake that's as high as they are now. Like, there's a lot. I mean, I don't know. That's what I told Aaron. We're just gonna have to, I guess, cover a lot of ground. Either that or get really lucky and find them quick. But I'm just kind of going into it expecting that we're not gonna do very good and to try to have fun. I don't.
It's
I mean, I
That's the
don't know.
most important part though, is having fun. You're still out on the water.
Oh yeah, and I mean, it's for Ducks Unlimited, so it's kind of one of those, you know, helping the fishes and the ducks at the same time. They don't get to do that very often. At least I don't. But I mean, what else? Oh God, I mean, there's summertime bass fishing.
This is a time of year to think outside the box. I love it because I get to use. You get middle of the day, the sun gets up. I like
Mhm.
going deep, and I don't get to fish deep very often, because our summer window up here isn't very long. But I'll go deep I get to run a drop shot, which is so much fun. It's really light. I use really light line for it, uh, and I'm fishing, looking for ledges in the lake. Reading your electronics. If you don't have electronics on the boat, there's apps out there. Fishity is a great app that you can use on your phone just to look for structure points on the lake and know where you're at
Mm-hmm.
and find those ledges and those holding grounds for where fish are going to hold up. Current's important.
You see that?
Moving water.
Have you seen that new deal that you like? It's a fish finder that runs off. I'm guessing Bluetooth, and you put it on a fishing pole and drop it.
I did see that.
I wonder what that's about. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, why hasn't somebody already done that? But man, it's, you have to question how good it works.
I would question it.
Um, Flashers. That's one thing I wanted to ask you about, and this is something since I got my new Garmin. I got that 73 SV. Reading the side view and down view. Before you go out on the water, if you've never had anything like that, all you gotta do is Google, like get on YouTube, and simply Google down view technology or side view technology, and whether it be a Humminbird, a Garmin, or a Lowrance, whatever, you'll find videos of people that know what they're doing, like know how to read them. Because I think that's the most intimidating part people run into with a fish finder, is they kind of shy from taking it off dummy mode, and it's if you can watch and have somebody that knows how to read those things point out what's what. Oh man, it's cool. They just you see trees and branches. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing how far technology has come.
Yeah, it has. And that being said, on that unit, not only is that stuff awesome, but it's got a flasher, which I opened up and looked at it for about 10 seconds and was like, yep, enough of that, because I have no clue what's going on here.
Uh, a flasher is a flasher's actually started in the ice fishing
Mm-hmm.
technology.
No,
It's
you talk about it all the time on
it,
the ice fishing podcast we did. Your whatever that flasher deal thing, and I'm like, huh, my boat has one, but I have no clue how to use it.
it's a vertical technique. So it's if you're gonna use it in open water fishing, you want to sit vertical. You're watching a line. So basically, the line you're gonna find is one line's gonna be your bait, and you always want to see where your bait is, and then
So,
you're gonna see other lines below it that are gonna come up. Those are fish, and you
okay, maybe this is something that somebody should do. You should do a YouTube video about your flasher sometime. Like,
I like that idea.
no, seriously,
I do.
because I've I'm lost. I'm guessing by line, is it like, because it pulled up, if I can remember off the top of my head, it was kind of a round screen
Yep.
with like a center point, correct?
Yep.
And then stuff would just start kind of moving. Granted, I wasn't fishing at this point in time. I was trolling around, which I don't know if you can do that, if you have to be stationary, anchored, or what. But I mean, you can look at a fish finder, and even if you don't know what you're doing, you can kind of get a idea, depth, the lake bottom, like the line on the bottom. That thing was just the most foreign thing I've ever looked at on a fish finder in my entire life.
It's it's one of those things that's really tricky to use, but once you figure it out and how to use it, especially for you being a crappie guy and
Yeah.
wanting to vertical jig crappie in deep water,
Huh?
it's something that's awesome to have. That's what I'll do next week. I'll get out a day and I will just panfish with it, and I will put a video up on YouTube on how to read a flasher
Yeah. And
in open water
well, and
situations.
maybe even take a buddy and have them fish so you can show. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like
yeah,
do it like two person, to where that way you can point out while it's happening. Or I don't know if it records. See, a lot of the people with one units, uh, they like recorded, and I think I can pull footage from the Garmin on a computer. I don't know how to though. That's
A
just one
lot
more.
of the units you can.
That's one more thing that I gotta put thought into that I don't have time for. But yeah, that'd be awesome because I need to learn how to do it. And Adam Christensen on Facebook, I'm sure you've seen him.
Oh yeah,
Uh, but he was telling me for walleye fishing that
it's
he uses a flasher a lot,
oh yeah.
and I'm like, oh, whatever. You got any unicorns you can give to me as well? Because I know about as much about them.
It's
Or
it's
maybe
great technology that
yeah,
learning to use it is awesome. And I have an advantage because I've grown up using a flasher for ice fishing, which is that's all you're doing is vertical jigging and ice fishing. It's not like you're moving around.
yeah, and it's stationary. I'm guessing tied off to a tree, anchored. Not necessarily trolling using it, right? Like,
You basically have to be pure vertical. You have to be your cone is 19 to 30 degrees
God,
depending on the unit you have. So you basically have to be vertical. So you can do it if you're drifting, like a controlled drift. If you can keep your bait vertical, you can use it pretty easily. But stationaries, I would say, is a way to go for somebody that's new and learning how to use it.
that's what it sounds like. Crazy. Well, there's that. I'm looking forward to seeing it because I, you know, like you saying that crappie fishing, that's exactly what I do there. So, drop a jig off the side of the boat. I've never. I mean, I have like pond fishing. I cast and catch crappie, but if I'm boat fishing for crappie, they're usually right under me. I'm usually if you're having to pull a crappie jig, you're gonna lose crappie jigs. You lose crappie jigs dropping crappie jigs. And jigging them up real slow. But if you're pulling, holy smokes, I can't even imagine. Unless you're fishing banks, but I mean, usually find one crappie, you're gonna, generally speaking, catch more.
You get into the school.
Yeah, because they hang out. Very rarely is it just one fish at a time, unless you just happen to catch one passing through. But okay, cool. Yeah, awesome, man. I'll look forward to it. YouTube's got a new app for the phone. It's YouTube Capture, and it actually lets you record, load, and edit your video all on your phone. It's awesome. Loved it.
I gotta download that out.
Oh, super handy. And I would imagine if they have it for iPhone, they would usually have it for Android because, Android usually is a little bit quicker to get apps out because there's a lot less restrictions. So,
Summer bass fishing's a lot of fun, but a lot of people get turned off because it's a lot more movement than in the spring or fall. You go summertime, you get a real hot day, sun in the sky. If I can find an area with lily pads, I'm gonna throw frogs all day long.
yeah.
I love throwing frogs.
Okay. Remind me when you're done explaining that. I have something that I already forgot to ask you once because of the flasher. And then we started talking about crappie. And, I'm like the most ADD ever. It's, what's this? But
Shiny object.
remind me, casting into stuff, I got something for walleye I want to pick your brain about. But lily pads, tell me that because I've never tried.
I find lily pads. I'm getting scum frogs. The KVD sexy frog is awesome. It's got a long tail. It's got two long tails on it.
Uh-huh.
Completely weedless. You can throw the thing a mile, and it's working it over to lily pads, and that's a great time. Making sure you get over as soon as you jump over a lily pad, it hits water. Stop it. Just stop reeling. Let it sit for a second, and then go back to twitching and reeling. Your catch so many fish that way. And in the summer, with the heat up, those lily pads are shade. That water right underneath them's cooler.
Shade.
That's a good ambush spot. There's so many techniques for frogs. I usually work them a little bit faster than most people.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but if it's a really hot day, I'm gonna really slow down. I'm gonna do a lot of big pops and stops with a frog on a regular basis. I even use frogs in without lily pads, just in shallow water. If I see some weeds up towards the surface,
Uh-huh.
I'll start casting underneath shade trees and just bounce the frog along there
Hmm.
and wait for that explosion. The key to frogs is just being patient, though. As soon as the fish hits it, make sure that frog is you don't see the frog anymore before you set the hook. If you set it too soon, you're just gonna miss the fish. And heavy line. My
Yeah. Okay, how heavy? Okay, and also on heavy, are you using a braid or like a monofilament?
if I'm cast, it depends on the water clarity. If you're in really clear water,
Uh-huh.
it's fluorocarbon.
Okay.
My rods will have 30 to 40 pound fluorocarbon on them. If I'm running braided line, murky water like I will be this weekend,
Mm-hmm.
I have up to 70-pound braid on a few of my bait casters because I don't want to lose the fish, and you're going to be ripping it through some heavy cover. Lily pads will tear up your line. So
Okay, let me ask you this. How in the hell do you keep it? And we'll kind of go into this is a dual-sided question now. Okay, fishing lily pads, heavy line, like 70-pound braid. That's insane. And then how do you keep the damn frog, or if you're using a worm, from getting crap all over it?
from getting well, the frogs are weedless. You pretty much don't have to worry about them.
Well, they're topwater,
Yeah,
correct?
it's a pure top water.
Okay,
You're right in the surface.
what if you're trying to fish? Okay, so you don't really fish under lily pads, do you?
I'll cast I'll cast big weedless jigs with a trailer, jigging pigs
Yeah.
into lily pads. If it's a sporadic lily pads with not a lot of bottom cover underneath them,
Uh huh.
I'll cast those into there and work those back. And those are usually toned down. I probably have about 30 to 40 pound on those rods. But to keep stuff from on it, it's just working it. High bounces. If I'm jigging through it, I'm keeping my rod tip high the entire jig just to keep that jig head up and not sticking into the stuff.
Okay, what about if you're fishing in grass? And this is what I was going to talk to you, the question. Um, I can't find the article because I lost it, but I can't remember if it was Paul. Oh goodness, from Hunt Shack. You know,
Yep,
what the hell? My brain just died. He is what's his name on Twitter?
Flintlock at
Flint
Flintlock.
Flintlocker.
Yep,
Um, anyways, he had sent me over an article, I believe, on Twitter, uh, and I can't find it. And it was about, yeah, it's gone. It was about trying to target walleye. And where one people screw up in lakes is walleye like to hang out in grass. And I fished for bass, but when I fish for bass in grass, I try to get the boat where the grass line is and just cast like a foot out from that grass line. And that's how I go about that. It I can't cast in vegetation without bringing a 4 foot trail of vegetation back.
if you're gonna fish grass for walleye, and it all depends on the lake. Up here, if I'm targeting walleye, I'm usually looking rocky sand bottoms. But I have caught plenty of walleye fishing grass, and it's using baits that you can control the submerge on. Crankbaits are great. Jerk baits over the
Oh,
top of the
dude,
grass are awesome.
what if the grass comes all the way up to the surface?
Then you're gonna want that's where you run swim baits, and you go with a tight, like a weedless swim bait. So you just kind of bury the hook tight to the body. So you have your weighted head.
But see, the problem, that weighted head always ends up like being the first target to get the stuff. Like it all gets caught on the damn head of the worm or the jig or whatever, and you're reeling, and then you reel out a 4 foot long seaweed.
One good way to prevent that is keeping your rod tip higher because it's going to keep your bait up.
And that, man, okay. So keep the rod tip up, and I need to get a different rod, like first and foremost, because my bass rod's still a little bit too bendy for my liking. It's not very stiff. I think it's like a medium light, or a medium, and I want to get a little heavier than that. So rod tip up, like longer rod, I'm guessing. I mean,
yeah, go 7.5 foot.
Okay.
Keep your rod tip up. You want to have medium heavy rod, a little bit heavier line, so you can really pull through the weeds instead of getting caught up on them.
Keep the bait moving. You're less likely to get stuck.
Yep. Okay. You want to keep that rod tip up, keeping the bait moving, and that heavier line too. You can help pull you through the stuff, so you're not catching as much onto the jig. You're more pulling a jig through the weeds. And then for walleyes in grass, you're going to want, usually the grass is going to be coming up from a deeper depth, so you're going to be wanting to swim that bait right off the bottom, because that's where walleyes are going to be. They're going to be at the bottom of that grass. So you're going to want to make sure you're making long casts to get that bait down there and really cover water with it.
Yeah. So I'm assuming you'll probably want a bait caster at that point, yada yada.
It's one of those areas where most walleye fishermen don't use bait casters.
Yeah.
Unless they're going to be fishing in grass.
Huh. Okay.
It's because you have so much more backbone behind a rod. You have so much more strength with a bait caster that you can rip it through.
Do you need to use steel leaders with walleye? No.
I don't even. Fluorocarbon, mono. I mean, their teeth are sharp, and if they do catch it right, it'll break it. But if I'm walleye fishing, all my walleye rods are fluorocarbon. And through the ice, my walleye rods are monofilament.
Huh.
So, it's rare I lose a walleye from biting me off. Most of the time, if I lose a fish that bit me off, it was a northern hit.
Yeah, they're mean. Your buddy just caught one, didn't he?
Yeah, my buddy caught a real nice one. His personal best, it was right on 33 inches.
Damn. 3 more inches, Joe. Come on.
It was awesome.
That's a big fish.
We were bass fishing, and he was throwing a spinnerbait as we were just kind of working weed edge. He was casting a spinnerbait over the top of the weeds, and I was working a swim bait off the outside edge down a little drop off, and it hammered him. It was, it's just a snake northern. He got to the boat. Nope, not a snake, not a small fish. It was funny. It was a good fish, though. I was happy for him.
Well, there's probably gobs and gobs more we could talk about, but I think we both got some stuff we need to wrap up. Maybe we'll sit down and record a little bit more here in a couple weeks after my bass tournament about some more bass fishing. How's that sound?
Definitely.
I mean, because you'll probably be a couple tournaments more into the season.
I have 9 straight weeks of tournaments.
Oh shit! Wow.
Including 2 weeks where I have 2 on the same weekend. So.
All right, man.
Running hard.
Yeah, let's do that. Call this one a wrap, and we'll touch back base here in a couple weeks and see how we've both been doing. And hopefully it's been good. So talk to you guys then. All right, folks. Once again, thanks for listening. We truly, truly, truly appreciate the support. Don't forget about our contest we got going on. For our last episode, we talked with Ricky Hart. We're going to be giving away a Lucky Duck, battery-powered Lucky Duck spinner. And all you got to do is text in to Sean. You need to text in to 816-935-0653. What Hank Shaw in episode 14 compared sausage making to. It's not a food, so that's your only hint. And the other only hint is it's within the first half of the show. So it is not a food, so he did not compare it to a food. He compared it to something else. But past that, thanks for listening. No music on this show. We're trying to keep it simple. Neither Joe nor myself have the time, and so we're trying to make these next few shows as pretty easy listening as possible, and kind of keeping it back to the basics. So thanks to our sponsors. We have Vortex, Remington, Banded, Wolf Premium Oils, Puddle Set Decoy Anchors, Lethal Scent Control, Weston Supply, and Orion Coolers. They're all great. Check them out. Get on southpondwaterfowl.com. We linked up all their stuff to us. And then, don't forget about the Photo of the Month contest. Get on our Facebook page, South Pond Waterfowls, The Pursuit to the Plate. All you got to do is submit a picture to our page or email Sean at southpondwaterfowl.com or Brian at southpondwaterfowl.com. One entry per month. Keep the picks coming. We've had some amazing picks so far, and the prizes that our sponsors have donated for this thing are great. We've already gave away a pair of binoculars and Lethal Scent Control this month. We're going for a meat grinder and a signed book by Hank Shaw, either Duck Duck Goose or Hunt Gather Cook, both wild game or waterfowl cookbooks, and then the meat grinder is a number 8 Weston grinder. Awesome stuff. So thanks to our sponsors. Without fans and sponsors, this would be really tough. It's very time consuming, and it's pretty awesome to have guys and gals behind us like we do. So Remington, Vortex, Banded, Wolf Premium Oils, Puddle Set Decoy Anchors, Orion Coolers, Weston Supply, Lethal Scent Control. They're all top notch. So check them out. Give them a follow. Give them a like on Facebook. You can search them all up just by those names, and you can find them all on our website. And so do it. Basically goes over everything. Get out there, enjoy your pursuits, and happy hunting, folks. Till next time, take care.